Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to make what is one of my most favored comfort food recipes. We are going to make a homemade vegetable beef soup. To go alongside that, we're going to make a poppy seed cheese muffin as our bread with our soup. We're going to do a salad with pomegranate and a homemade vinaigrette, and then we're going to make some peanut butter cookies. So let's get started. Now, what you will need is a pound or so of just stew meat, or you can take a ground or a chuck roast and cut it into cubes. You want your cubes to be, about an inch or so in size. And I've just put them in the bottom of a soup pot. I'm going to put some salt and pepper on the beef cubes. I'm not browning them. We're just going to cook them. Takes, a couple of hours. This is something you can totally do in your crock pot if you want to. That's perfectly fine. And I'm going to add a combination of beef stock and chicken stock to my soup pot. Now let's get this going. Okay. If you want to do this in your crock pot, you can cook it for, a couple of hours, about 3 to 4 hours on high. You can even go like up to 8 or 10 hours on low if you want to. But you want to cook this to where that beef is very, very tender. And chuck is one of those cuts, or beef stew meat, whichever you're using, is one of those cuts that needs time to break down the collagen and so forth in the beef to break down. But when that does, it becomes so succulent and moist and tender and really, really good. And in my opinion, is the best cut for beef stew, or not beef stew, but vegetable beef soup. They're kind of along the same lines. And in this pot, well, we'll get to that in just a minute. So that's going to cook. We're going to make a muffin to go alongside that. Now in this bowl is some, just a baking mix, whatever brand you want, a couple of cups of just a baking mix. I have some cheddar cheese. I'm going to add most of that, but I'm going to save a little bit to put on top. This is a poppy seed, so we're going to add some poppy seeds. We're also going to add 1 egg that I'm actually going to beat a little bit before I put it in the muffin mix. This is a savory muffin that's really good with soup. It's really good with anything, honestly. I love it. I like these quick little drop biscuity type recipes because it just is easier. Now, we're going to add some milk. I'm using 2%, about 1.5 cups, but now honestly, it will depend on the humidity in your room that you're cooking in, whether you will need the whole 1.5 cups or not. And then just stir it together. It really is simple. See, I think that's plenty, and I used about 1 cup, maybe a little bit less than 1 cup. I don't need the rest of it. You want it to be a dough consistency. This is not, you're not baking a yeasted bread where you got to be precise with your measurements. That's fine. You want to have a muffin tin that I have sprayed with, I really like this coconut spray, but you could use the baking spray or whatever you have. If you don't have any of that, you can take a little bit of butter and just rub the outsides of the wells of the muffin pan, or you could, if you wanted to, use muffin liners. Now, you can do a scoop, an ice cream scoop, or, which is what I'm going to do here, get my water off. I've just got 2 spoons. You want to fill these about 3/4 of the way full. Want to allow some room for the dough to expand. And I find that 1 heaping spoonful of this is perfect. Have your oven preheated to 350 degrees. And these bake, oh, for about 20 minutes or so until they're cooked through. I love these little biscuits. They're very savory. Not a sweet muffin like you think of a dessert muffin. But they're very good. You could also do this in a mini muffin tin if you wanted to. And of course it would bake in about half the time, 10 minutes. You could take this dough and put it in a loaf pan and bake it as a loaf. You would need to time it. It would take about 45 minutes or so. And this makes 12 muffins. Can easily double it. I need to add a little bit more to this one. You want to make sure that they're all, approximately even in their filled capacity. And we're going to pop this in a 350-degree oven for about 20 minutes. All right. All righty, I'm going to just clean up my mess here, take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to work on the soup, our salad, and our cookies. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now I have a pot of water that I have brought to a boil, and I'm going to cook a little bit of macaroni. The reason that I like to cook my macaroni separate, about a cup or so, is that if you cook your macaroni in the pot with the broth, it absorbs all the liquid and your soup will be way too thick. So I like to cook mine in a separate pot for about 8 minutes or so. Now, to our beef that through the magic of television has already cooked, I'm going to add an onion, just one onion. You can put this in the beginning if you want to simmer with your beef, but you don't have to. Let's get this part thrown away. Move the trash can a little closer. We're going to dice up our onion. Okay. And as I chop, I'm going to go ahead and add this to the soup pot. Now, you can add whatever vegetables that you want to. You can add, whatever kind of veggies that you like. I'm doing the traditional onion, carrot, celery, that kind of thing. Ooh, that's a strong onion. My eyes are watering. It wouldn't be a Everyday Manna episode if I didn't drop something on the stove. Okay. I'm also going to add some celery. Now, I've already washed all of this produce. Now, a lot of people throw away the celery leaves. It really has a lot of flavor, so I would leave those in. You don't have to if you don't want to. I am going to cut off the very tops and the very bottoms. That onion's strong. It's making my eyes water. Just chopping up some celery, and I can't seem to get my cuts going this morning. Okay, Celery's one of my favorites, so I add a lot. You add as much or as little, or none at all if you don't like celery. I love it. Sometimes, for a little snack at home, I'll just take celery, cut it up into pieces and cook it. Just boil it in water and eat it. I love celery. It's absolutely one of my favorite things to eat. My macaroni needs to be stirred. It's going to boil over. And then some carrots and potatoes. Stir it all in there. Love soup. I've always loved soup. Now, I washed my carrots. I'm not going to peel them. I'm just going to cut off the tops and the bottoms a little bit. But I'm not peeling mine because I did scrub them. You can if you want to. I like to cut them in half to where you've got a flat cutting surface. And then just cut them into pieces about the same size as your celery. I like to work on a big cutting board and then just add as you go. Okay, flat side down. You could add, if you don't want to chop your own veggies, you could add a bag of frozen mixed vegetables or soup, vegetables for soup. Sometimes I do that. Just depends on how much time I have. We're going to bring that to a boil. Let's turn that up just a little bit. Stir it. I'm going to add a little bit more salt and a little bit more pepper. About half a teaspoon of each. You can do that to taste. All right, we're just going to kind of let that go for a few minutes. Now, I have here 1 can of whole tomatoes. Now, in this recipe, I like the whole tomatoes. If you're lucky enough at home to have your home canned tomatoes, oh, this is a great recipe to use those in. But I like to cut them myself. You could use the diced tomatoes if you wanted to. Up to you. You could take your fingers and squish them up if you wanted to. Great thing to let your kids do. I'm going to drain this in the soup because I don't want to waste that liquid. Okay. Let's get all my tomatoes out. These are just whole plum tomatoes. Some recipes I don't mind using the, pre-diced up tomatoes. But for this one, for some reason, I just prefer to use these. I think because I cut them irregular, they're not perfectly the same shape, which I think adds a little bit of a rustic look to your soup. So that's why I really just prefer to do it myself. Getting full. Scoop them up. Probably should have my soup right next to my board instead of the other way around, shouldn't I? Now, I'm not going to add my potatoes yet. I'm going to let those harder vegetables cook for about 5 minutes or so. And then I will add my potatoes when that gets a little more cooked. I'm going to just take a quick break, clean up my cutting board. When I come back, we will add our potatoes. We're going to start on the cookies and make the dressing for our wonderful little green salad. I'll be back in just a minute. All righty, now I had to switch pots because my pot was getting too full, so I just put it in a larger, taller pot. And I chopped up the potatoes and added those. We're going to let that go for about 10 minutes or so, and then we will add in our frozen peas and corn. But they only need about a minute. So let's get our cookie dough going. Now I have here 1 block of cream cheese. This actually is a low-carb cookie. And we're going to add some peanut butter. Now here, if you want to keep your carbohydrates down, read the label of your peanut butter, because the overwhelming majority of peanut butters on the grocery store shelf have added sugar. A lot of stores now have the grinder stations where you just grind fresh peanuts. That's peanut butter. This particular one is called Nut and Better, and there is no added sugar. The ingredients are dry roasted peanuts and salt. That's what you want, and otherwise you're going to be consuming a whole lot of carbs if you're watching your carb count. You want about a cup of peanut butter, which is about half this jar, and oh, it smells incredible. I mean, you can't have too much peanut butter in my opinion. So let's add about half that jar, maybe a little more, just a little more. This is a very easy recipe to do, okay? I'm doing mine in a stand mixer. You don't have to if you don't have a stand mixer. You can use a regular mixer, or you could even use your arm in a spatula if you wanted to, but this makes it a little easier. All right, we're just going to whisk that together. We're going to add in 1 egg, some vanilla, and some liquid sweetener. Now I'm using liquid stevia, about 20 drops or so. Let it go. Okay. And then I have some peanuts here that I'm actually going to chop up just a little bit, not a tremendous amount. Just take a knife and kind of go through them a little bit. I also have 1 baking tray that I have put parchment paper on. There's no flour in this cookie recipe. This is a low-carb peanut butter cookie. It's really good. And I eat low-carb. My husband and I both, Mike and I both eat low-carb. I eat it probably 90% of the time. I have to admit, sometimes I do cheat and eat some carbs. He's much better at that than I am. But I will say I enjoy the low-carb eating. And then stir those in, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Right there. There's your dough. Now, you will want to get all that off your paddle. And again, I have a baking sheet that I've lined with parchment paper. Now, with these mixers, sometimes this is the consistency you want. I'll show you in just a second. You need to go down in the bottom and stir it one last little time. I do find sometimes with the stand mixers, the very bottom does not get mixed in as much as you would want. Now, you see how thick that is? That's the consistency that you want. You want a dough. So, take your baking dish, wipe the peanut butter off your board. Turn off my macaroni, that's good and done. And I like to just use a small ice cream scoop. If you don't have one of these, you can use a spoon. And then just drop it onto your baking dish. The reason I like to use the ice cream scoop is that they all end up the same size, which for baking purposes is much better. And you just want to drop them on your parchment lined baking pan a couple of inches apart because they're going to expand. And we're going to flatten them like the traditional peanut butter cookie. Peanut butter cookies, you know, always have that crisscross pattern that we make with a fork. My biscuits are done. They're out of the oven, or my muffins. Soup is almost done. And then we're going to make a quick little salad while these bake. And dinner's through. If you put that beef in your crock pot from start to finish, you'll be done in no time, okay? I'm only going to bake these one tray at a time. I got enough for another tray. But for TV purposes, let me show you what to do. I like to spray my fork with a little bit of the coconut spray, and then just flatten them with your fork. And these are going to bake at 350 degrees. That one's a little soft. For about 10 minutes, check them. And then we'll check them. I'll show you how to tell when they're done. 350 degrees, about 10 minutes. Now let's check our soup. Boiling away there. Let's actually turn that down. I'm going to add in my peas and carrots and let that, oh, wait till you see the bowl of our finished soup. My macaroni is cooked. I'm just going to drain this. I'm going to clean up, take a fast little break. When I come back, we'll have all this done. I'm going to drain this and add it to my soup. Our cookies will be done. When I come back, we will make a dressing and we will eat. I'll be back in just a second. Alrighty, now let's make a quick salad dressing. In this measuring cup, I have some olive oil, and then I'm just going to add some red wine vinegar. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper and a little bit of salt. Whisk that together. Couldn't be simpler. This is just a vinegary dressing. I have in this bowl some just lettuce, salad greens. Now, I'm adding some pomegranate seeds, but you could take a pomegranate and get your own out if you want, but you can buy these little containers that have them already done. And I'm going to add some sunflower seeds. I really like them. You can add anything you want to this. This is just a little quick little salad dressing. Let's add a little bit, drizzle some of this over our just simple little green salad. I like salad with soup. Soup and salad or soup and sandwiches just to me kind of go together. And then I would just serve the rest of this on the side. Now, here's our wonderful soup that we just put out into our soup bowls. So good. I cannot wait to dig into that. And our beautiful little muffins, our little poppy seed cheddar muffins, and our cookies are done. Now, because there's no flour in these cookies, they need to cool, and they will firm up as they cool. So I'm just going to let them sit on the sheet tray until they get done. They bake in about anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. It just depends on your particular oven. So there's our cookies. They're just, I got another tray in there. They are so good, but they need to firm up before you touch them. And then we'll put them in our little thing. So here you go, some quick and easy delicious little recipes. Look at what someone just brought me, a viewer from Wise. Picked this up for me. Isn't that so pretty? Just a mixture of measuring cups and spoons that are so colorful and pretty and just go real well with the set. So thank you from Wise, Virginia. She just stopped by and gave those to Mike, and he just brought them in here. Now, I would top my salad with a little bit extra pepper, because you know I really love that pepper. And if you have some flaky sea salt, that would be delicious on it too. So here you go, some quick and easy recipes for you to try. You can put that in your crock pot if you want to, or you can cook it on your stove when you're home and just let your house be filled with those wonderful smells of homemade vegetable beef soup. Even if you're only cooking for like 2 people, I would make that whole recipe and then let it cool. Put individual serving sizes in containers that you can put in the freezer, and then you've got homemade soup. All you have to do is take it out and then microwave it if you want to warm it through, or put it in a pan and simmer it. So I would make that whole recipe and then freeze it in individual little serving sizes. I do that all the time when I make soup, because my boys are not real big vegetable beef soup eaters. So if I have leftover, I just put it in the freezer, and then when I want it or Mike wants it, it's ready to go, and all you got to do is thaw it and heat it in the microwave or on the stove, either one. So your cookies, by the way, will be done when they are, you know, firm to the touch. If you're using the natural peanut butter, which I did, it will have a little bit of oil that'll leak out onto the pan. That's perfectly fine. Not a problem at all. I cannot wait to eat those. Thank you for joining with me, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.